Hello everybody. In this video I will be doing a tilt and shift demonstration using a Sony A6300 not micro four third mirrorless camera with APS-C sensor, a K&F concept Nikon lens adapter, and a Nikon 85mm 2.8 in tilt shift lens. And this is a lens that Nikon came out to replace the original 90mm tilt and shift. It added the N designation, which means it's got a nice nano crystal coating on the lens elements to enhance contrast and further reduce chromatic aberrations. This lens works okay with the Sony A6300. Why I only say okay is because it have a shutter that cannot be controlled. It's a electronic shutter, or not necessarily electronic, but you can't control the shutter by just rotating the dials, because even when you rotate the dial, the aperture doesn't change. And my adapter also was not able to change the aperture because the aperture was controlled by electronics. So there's not a prong on back of the tilt shift lens. It's all by electronic contacts. So if you don't have a Nikon camera, you won't be able to control the apertures. It will stay wide open at 2.8. And for this demonstration, I mainly want to show you guys how the tilt shift lens works and the effect it have. So I'll be switching around between this video camera on my phone and the videos recorded from the Sony camera. So actually, let's see. I'm gonna reset the camera. So try to find the pen, and I'm gonna pull it into focus. All right, and I'm actually gonna start recording. All right, so as you can see, right now I have focus peaking enabled on the Sony camera, and right now it's focusing entirely on a plane in the middle. So right now the tilt and shift lens features are all actually off. So the tilt is at its middle and the shift is also at its middle. So if I want to, now I'm gonna test the tilt feature, which is changing the plane of the lens. So let's see. If I'm tilting one way to the right side, you can see instantly the focus area have changed entirely. So now it's focusing at a really weird plane that your normal lens would not be able to do. And that's because it's trying to focus with this angle instead of this angle. So imagine it, if you're focusing on this angle, of course, the plane will be around here. And if I change the tilt, and I'm changing it the other way, you can see instantly it changed, the focus plane changed entirely in a different direction. So now it's focusing like that. And that's pretty amazing, and you can also create some really interesting views with this special effects, because with a regular lens, the only thing you'll be able to do is just focus on a flat plane, which is like that. So this is, I just reset the tilt. So Now it's focusing normally like any other lens would do, which is from the center area. And the shift function, which basically moves the lens up and downwards, or if you actually rotate the lens, it can be moved. Let's see. Trying to do it with one hand again, so I'm sorry. So if I rotate it, I can basically change all the angles and get the desired effect I want. So I'm gonna move it back just for demonstration purpose. I'm gonna use the shift to shift the image up and down. And let's see, go back to normal. So that was actually the normal. Try to bring back the focus. And let's see. So if I'm shifting up and down, take a look at the image. And this is shifting down. So the lens physically moved downwards. And that's why it's capturing the area below what it would normally capture. And if I shift upwards, you're gonna see much more of the upper area. And of course, just keep in mind, anytime you shift, you can still focus. So now I'm seeing entirely a different area, which is like a new area that's totally out of the frame of original lens. And back to normal, and refocus. So that actually is a quick demonstration of the tilt shift feature. And I think the most interesting thing to use, or most people would be using the tilt function because it creates an interesting focus plane that entirely changes the focus angle. So as you can see, the focus plane actually rotates from the axle. And that is actually what makes the tilt shift lens so much more special. And if you are using the shift feature, most of the time it's going to be for product or architectural photography, because sometimes if you're shooting a mirror and you don't want yourself to be in the mirror, so basically imagine this is a mirror. I can be standing at a different point and I'm just shifting. So if this new area is a mirror and I'm standing over here, I won't be able to get my shadows or my reflection in the mirror. And that's one trick to do when you're photographing mirror and you don't want to use like special effects or just Photoshop the mirror with like a white color or whatever. That's the way to do it. And with the tilt feature, also mostly used for landscape photography. Imagine if you're shooting a really wide field of view and you want everything on the ground to be in focus. Imagine this is the ground. I can easily just, instead of a plane in focus like that, I can just tilt the lens and have the entire ground in focus. And with the limitation of a Nikon electronic aperture lens on Sony, is that I couldn't change the apertures, because at this point I also need to change aperture to a much larger value, like a f16 or f22, because when you change it to that, you have much less depth of field effect and everything will be sharp and in focus. And that way you can make sure that the ground is ultra sharp and everything else around the ground area would also be sharp. Normally, if a landscape, sorry, my cats are fighting. Normally, if you're shooting a really wide view, it's really hard to get everything in focus if you're focusing on a flat plane like that. So most photographers would do the trick of tilting the lens and increase or make the aperture much smaller. And that is a trick. In this video, I'll also be, I guess, switching around back and forth between the camera on my hand and the actual in-camera shots, so you guys can see the effect of the tilt and shift lens. Again, this is recorded using a Sony A6300, a K&F concept Nikon adapter for the Sony, and a Nikon 85mm 2.8 perspective control N lens. This lens is entirely manual with the exception of the aperture, which is controlled by the electronic contacts. And I guess that is also the downside if you actually want to use this lens with any of the Micro Four Third or APS-C cameras that's mirrorless and that's not made by Nikon, because it won't be able to control that aperture. So that is a limitation. If you guys have any questions about this tilt and shift lens, or if you have any comments about this setup, please feel free to let me know. And I hope you find this video helpful. If you do, please hit the like button. And again, thank you so much for watching.